Welcome to the With Purpose podcast. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chrissie.
Life is full of ups and downs, but through it all, there is purpose.
A purpose that encourages us, strengthens us, and ultimately glorifies the Lord.
Let's walk this journey together on purpose, with purpose. Welcome back, everyone, to the With Purpose podcast. Today's episode is especially close to our hearts. We're talking about purpose in suffering, exploring how even in our hardest moments, God is at work transforming our pain into purpose, which is just so beautiful. So today we're going to be talking about your story, about your family story, and about Ilian, and how God has helped you in suffering and how He's reshaped your faith, and just how He's shown up for you in your hardest moments. So I'm just so excited to hear your story.
It's such a privilege for me to be able to speak about, like I always say, two of my favorite things to talk about is the Lord and Ilian. And it's such a joy to talk about how the Lord has really met us in our hardest season.
So Chrissie, take us back to the moment where you first learned about Ilian's diagnosis.
Yes, so I'm going to take you back to November 2020. I was 18 weeks pregnant, and we were on our way for our 18-week scan, and we were so excited. We knew with this appointment we were going to find out what gender we were expecting, a boy or a girl, and we couldn't wait to start dreaming about him or her, to plan the baby room, to just think about like the name we're going to call him or her at that stage. And we did find out quite soon into our appointment. The doctor told us that we were expecting a boy. And I just remember like Vian and I were just looking at each other, and we had our own moment of celebrating, and we knew that this baby's Ilian. We only had one name. We didn't have a girl's name. We only had one boy's name. So when the doctor said you're expecting a boy, we knew it was Ilian.
Wow.
And in that moment, I also realized that the doctor is quite quiet. He's not really saying much. And naturally, I asked him, is everything okay, doctor? But I didn't expect him to say no. I remember like asking him, thinking like he would just say, yes, I'm just checking out the rest of the scan. But he did say no. He answered, no, something is wrong with his brain. There's very little brain tissue.
Sure.
And he then went from Ilian's brain, he went down his spine. And we then heard and learned that Ilian has spina bifida. His spine didn't form as it should have formed. There was a massive opening in his back. So spina bifida basically means split spine. And that, with the opening in his back, the nerves get exposed. So immediately you get told that you don't know what kind of nerve damage there will be. Ilian's opening is quite high up in his back, so a bit technical, but it starts at his L2 vertebra. So you don't know what nerves from that point onwards in his body will be affected. So immediately we were faced with uncertainties. The doctor said we don't know if he will be able to breathe when he's born. Immediately we were asked if we want to continue on with the pregnancy.
Can't believe that.
Given the option to abort, to basically schedule an abortion as soon as we wanted to.
Oh my goodness.
So we basically went from this high, this excitement, to this absolute battlefield of we are now faced with so many attacks, so many like just almost arrows coming our way of life and death, trusting the Lord. At that moment, like I remember Vian and I driving away from that appointment, we were absolutely heartbroken. We were almost went into a state of mourning, but also in the same breath we told each other, like, we are not going to take this into our hands. This life is in the Lord's hands. He's knitting Ilian together in my womb, and we were convinced in that first moment, and we are still convinced that Ilian is made by the Lord with spina bifida purposefully and wonderfully. There is purpose and meaning in it. But I also immediately we felt like we're just going to start begging. We're just going to start praying. We're going to come with this baby, this unborn baby, before the Lord every moment of every day and ask him to heal him, to close his back, to bring us good news. And every time I went for a scan, I went with this expectancy, like, there's going to be good news. The hole is going to be smaller. The lesion is going to be smaller. We're going to see him kick in my womb. We're going to just see signs of miracles already. And then, months went by, and in April 2021, I started having signs of labor. It was over a weekend, and we drove to the hospital. I was admitted for an emergency C-section. They didn't want me to go into, like, have a natural labor, just to eliminate any risks. And when they took Elian out, they showed him quickly to me. I couldn't hold him.
Sure.
He was immediately wheeled away, basically, and into the NICU. And then the first conversation I remember having with the doctor after he was born, I asked the doctor, how's he doing? How's he looking? And the doctor said, it is much worse than we expected. And I just remember how shocked I was. We've been begging, we've been asking, we've been praying. It is much worse than we expected. The opening was much bigger. He didn't have any movement in his legs, but he was breathing. There was life. And I remember I had, those milestone cards where, like, you have baby first did this. I had some of them, but obviously I knew Elian's milestones would look different. So I turned mine to the back, and I took a Cokie with me to the hospital, and I wrote on one of the milestone cards on the back, he is breathing.
Wow.
Like, that
is incredible.
Almost that first miracle of there's life. The Lord gave us life. That following day, Elian was transferred to Red Cross Children's Hospital. And just to add to all of this, it was in COVID time.
Oh, man.
So Elian was in one hospital, I was in a different hospital, and Vian was, like, in between, trying to get, like, milk from me to give it to Elian. Then he was at Elian, and it was just this very overwhelming feeling of, one moment I have a pregnant belly with the baby safely inside of me. Next moment, we're all separated. Elian is going through his thing, Vian is going through his thing, and I'm going through my thing alone in the hospital. He got his first surgery. We call it the closure surgery, where they literally take skin and muscle to cover the hole. The following evening, so basically at a day old, they just closed his back. One of the, like, just moments where we also felt like we really saw God just already in it. One of the neurosurgeons, basically one of the top neurosurgeons at Red Cross, met with us a couple of months before Elian was born. I had a friend working at Red Cross, and she arranged a meeting for him to just chat with us through what is spina bifida, like, kind of just what we can expect of what the first things that will happen. So before Elian was born, we met with him. And remember, then I went into labor on a weekend. Elian was born on a weekend. He got his first surgery and was transferred to Red Cross on a Sunday.
Wow.
So you don't know who's on call.
No.
You have no clue. Vian says, as Elian, because Vian followed when the ambulance took Elian, Vian was also there to arrive at Red Cross. Vian said as he got out of the car and walked into Red Cross, he walked into that neurosurgeon.
Wow.
And the neurosurgeon told him, is it for your baby that I'm here today? That I'm called in for the emergency surgery?
Wow.
And Vian was like, it's for our baby.
Wow.
And we spoke, we knew who he was. We just had that peace over.
Yes.
The Lord is in
That's
this.
Amazing.
And he did his surgery, closed his back. That surgery went very well. And then I could finally join Elian, I think the day after that, in Red Cross. At a week old, they decided to place the shunt in his brain to help with the fluid drainage, so that no pressure will build up in his brain. So he got his first shunt, second surgery. And we were actually discharged then a couple of days later, able to go home. At 10 days old, we were at home 10 days. Elian started getting a fever, and he was just inconsolable. He was just screaming.
Sure.
We went back to Red Cross. They checked all his wounds. The back wound looked good, but the shunt wound was not healing. And we got admitted again. A couple of days later, we found out that Elian had meningitis.
Oh my goodness.
His shunt got infection, and not just a bacteria, a hospital bug, which means that bug is basically immune to most medicines. They had to fly in antibiotics from a different country to treat him. And we were just in the darkest place we've ever been. We felt like things were just going from bad to worse every single day. Elian started losing weight. He had some seizures. At one point, the doctor just called us in. The meningitis then went from meningitis to ventriculitis. What that just means is that the infection spread to inside his water spaces. So it wasn't just outside of the brain, it was now inside the water spaces.
Goodness.
And the chances of a couple of weeks old baby surviving that was just very low. And we were called in. We were called in, and the doctor said, like, it's not looking good. Your baby is fighting for his life. It's not looking great. But again, the Lord he came and he granted us life. At 40 days old, things started to turn around. And that was so significant for me. 40, it felt like we were in the desert. And I remembered, I thought and why I remembered that was the sisters gave him his first bath. And that was almost like the turning point for me. It was as if we were in this desert.
Yes.
Then Elian went through the water, his first bath. And after that, things turned around. He started opening his eyes. He started eating again. He started picking up weight again. They did some more scans and they saw that the infection was clearing up. The medicine was working. And a month since he was admitted for his shunt infection, exactly to the day, a month later, we walked out of Red Cross.
Sure.
It wasn't over. The infection caused a lot of damage. So Elian's brain isn't a normal brain. His water spaces, because of the infection, doesn't communicate with each other anymore. So it still had to be treated. At that point, he didn't have a shunt anymore. They took out the one that had the infection and they just wanted to give him a chance to heal.
Wow.
So he didn't have a shunt. He went in, we were out of hospital, but then later on we were admitted again so that they just could give him a temporary solution to treat the hydrocephalus. But what that meant was they placed a reservoir in his brain and had to then, every time pressure built up manually a needle, they took out fluid into the reservoir, extracted some fluid, and that in itself was so traumatic.
I can imagine.
Having to hold down...
You had to hold him.
Your screaming baby, yes.
Oh, no.
Then putting a needle into his brain. And,
oh, man. And he's already been through so much. That's
so much.
Can't imagine.
So we had a couple of surgeries where it was just kind of trying to treat all the damage that was done and trying to give him more time. In August of 2021, he got his new shunt. And I think November, a month later, they treated because the water spaces wasn't communicating, they had to go in again. So for that year, November was his last surgery, and that was his 7th brain surgery, his 8th surgery in total in his first couple of months of life. We had a bit of a break back there after that. It was still back and forth. But then he had shunt failure again in 2023, where they had to go in again for another shunt placement. So at this point, Elian has 3 devices in his head. He has 2 shunts and then the reservoir that's still there in his brain. And he's had at this point he's had 10 surgeries. So there's this saying with spina bifida where it says, you're never really out of the woods with spina bifida, you just learn to live in it.
Okay.
And we've really experienced that. He's almost 4 years old and we've experienced being in the woods and having to live in it. But we've also experienced how the Lord meets us here and how he is just so good. and so kind in these woods. And if I think back, thinking back now, if my first prayer was answered for complete healing, we would have really missed out on the Lord. We would not have seen him and experienced him as much in such depth as we have had these past few years, because we are in a place of being so dependent on him. Just in the place of suffering, in the spina bifida woods, he has exceeded our expectations. And that brings me to today.
Yes.
And Elian, the boy I have,
Yes.
and the boy we've gotten to know,
Yeah.
and the privilege we have to see his life unfold, and how the Lord is still busy with him. He has not for a moment stopped forming and working and doing good for us and Elian. He is the happiest boy.
He is. On that point, actually, I wanted to say that hearing all that he's been through, and the boy that I know today, because I knew him after all of this, wow, what you would never know. He is like the most joyful and so smart, so clever. The other day we were making muffins, and he was showing me his special trick. He says it in Afrikaans, so Chrissie does have to help me out a bit. But he can, you can say number 10 of the alphabet, and he can give you the letter. It's just incredible. I'm always amazed when I'm around him, and just so special.
The Lord has been so kind in how he has given, so that the losses, the things that he cannot do, the things that are perhaps hard or part of the journey that's not as easy, the good far exceeds the losses. And we see it every day in Elian, and that is such a gift, because it moves us to praise him every single day. And by moving us to praising him, we meet him and we experience him. That's just the brief background of just like kind of the medical things of what we've been through.
So during the early days, what were some of the struggles you faced in your walk with God? How did this impact your faith?
Just my walk with God was such a roller coaster, and it still is in a way that one moment you experience this incredible low, and the next moment you are on this high of just experiencing him and seeing him, and oftentimes those things you experience them on this, like in the same time. It's this low and this high, and it's hard. It's like it's this journey that's really hard to explain and put into words, but I remember more than ever before having questions, asking him why is this just, why are you not hearing our prayers? Where are you? Are you here? Do you know about us? Kind of thing. That month that while Elian was fighting the infection, we were in a private room, because of the hospital bug. No one was allowed almost near Elian. So we had this room, and I remember just sitting in that room, Elian was having seizures. He was just struggling, and I was sitting there, and I was just out loud asking the Lord, please show up. Show me you are here.
Wow.
Like, it doesn't feel like you are here. Why is this just going from bad to worse every single time? But the Lord is so kind in giving us time. And he has given us time in being able to reflect, granting us perspective, being able to look back and see, oh, wow, he was there. He was right there. We didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. We, for the most part, didn't know Elian was fighting for that first couple of weeks when he was admitted for infection. We didn't know it was a hospital bug. We didn't know how bad the infection was. The Lord knew. The Lord knew, and he kept him. He was right there. One of the stories that I love telling because it blessed me so much, the day we got admitted for the infection, we actually thought we were just going in for them to clean the wound and just to check it out, but then we actually got admitted. Elian got admitted in the hospital, but we got out, And I actually took a photo in front of the hospital because there was this beautiful rainbow. And I was holding Elian before we went in. Like, this is just before we went into the storm. And it was this beautiful rainbow over the hospital. And I was like, oh, this is significant. I tend to see the Lord in nature and in his handwork all over these type of things, small things, big things. And then we went in and we had this stormy month. And that was the 29th of April. The 29th of May, Vian and I switched. Vian went in to sit with Elian for the morning and I went home. This was still COVID time, so we couldn't be by his side at the same time. So I went home to shower, to eat and all that. And as I climbed into the car, my thought was, oh, it's a month later. Wouldn't it be cool to see the Lord again today? Wouldn't it be cool if there was a rainbow? I got into the car literally as I drove out of Red Cross's parking, turned into the road in front of me. There was a rainbow.
Oh my goodness.
Over the road. And I was like,
beautiful.
Oh, this is cool. The Lord is still in it. He's showing us that he's near. He hasn't left us. I was about 5 minutes away from home when I got a WhatsApp from Vian. And he was like, turn around. And I'm like, oh my word, what happened? He spilled the milk I left him or something, like there's a crisis. And then his next message came and he said, we're going home today.
Oh my word.
We went in with a rainbow. We went out with a rainbow.
Wow, that is beautiful.
And it was just this clear reminder. I remember how I was just like so overwhelmed and reminded by the Lord. He was the same before the infection. He was the same during the infection. And still, God, over the storm, in the storm, just in control of it all, even in our going out that day.
That's amazing.
That he will keep his promise. He's a God of keeping his promises. That he's not leaving our sides. We are in his hands. And also the other thing that I was reminded of is that he's also the God that allowed the storm. He is the God that, while he was with us, to make peace and accept the fact that he also allowed it. He is allowing us to walk this journey, and we need to trust him with it.
Wow.
Because he's good and he is in it with us. So that was a high moment for me.
Wow.
That was a moment of, okay, he's in it. He's still in control, as I thought while he was still in my belly. He has purpose in it. He still has purpose in it because he's allowing this. But he's a God who keeps his promises. And the rainbow was a stark reminder of a God who keeps his promises. And that he's good. And he's Lord over it. And we need to surrender to him and to his
amazing.
Will in it.
Yeah.
When Elian got his second shunt, they for a moment thought again he had sepsis. So we had that whole like panic again of would he survive this? And I went through a dip again. And I was like, Lord, how can we now be on the verge of not knowing if he will be okay again? Like this is our second shunt. Are we gonna go through this again? And he came out of his surgery and I was like singing to him and talking to him, playing to him, and we were at that point sharing a room with other moms.
Okay.
And I had one mom, as I was singing to him and talking to him, looking at me, and she said to me, "You really love him, don't you?" My immediate first thought was like, obviously I love him. He's my child.
He's a child. Yeah.
Obviously I love him. Yeah. And as I was thinking it, I got that second thought, like this nudge of the spirit of, obviously I love you.
Yeah. Wow.
You are my children.
Wow. Yes.
Do not question that. Do not question me. I love you. And it was that realization of the God who made us. He, out of everyone, knows the heartache of having a suffering son.
Wow.
He understands what we are going through. He sent his son to suffer on our behalf so that our suffering won't be meaningless, so that we will have the hope of heaven.
Yeah.
We are his children. He knows what we're going through and he loves us. And again, it was just that moment of, okay, perspective. to grant us perspective. So in a long way, to answer your question, like our journey has been, there's been lows, there's been moments of feeling like, oh, we are in a desert place. But more than that, there's been incredible moments of the Lord granting us perspective, of giving us the opportunity to know Him, to know that, like, to lift our eyes towards Him in the suffering, to know that it's not meaningless, that He's in it, He's in control, and He loves us.
Wow.
It's not for, like, there's good in it, and His meaning is good for us, not just defeat and bad.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Wow. So that's had a huge impact on me. Wow. I'm trying to process that. I can't imagine what you guys went through, and yeah, that is just so beautiful. That is just such a wonderful reminder, and it's so encouraging. It's thank you.
That's I feel like that's just an added blessing. If we can share stories, and it's a blessing to us to see the Lord at work in our hard seasons. But it's amazing to be able to encourage someone where you are in your hard season to know
exactly.
Just know the Lord is good. And even if you are staying in that hard season for a while, He will show up, and He does show up in miraculous ways.
So encouraging. Thank you. We've come to the end of part 1 of this episode. We are splitting this episode into 2 parts just due to the length of the episode. So stay tuned for part 2, which will be made available next week. It's time for our purpose check-in. Last week we spoke about the gratitude jar. Have you started your gratitude jar? If so, how is it going? Have you done it with your family? We'd love to see if you've started your gratitude jar and how it's impacted you. So please share with us. And this week's challenge, we really want to challenge you about purpose in action. What does that look like for you this week? Well, we want to encourage you to be purposeful by adding people to your prayer list who you know are going through a hard season. That is our encouragement for you this week, and we hope that your actions, your purposeful actions of praying for them, encourages them and you. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Connect with us on Instagram at the with.purpose podcast, and let's keep this conversation going. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review. This really helps our podcast, and share it with a friend who needs encouragement. Remember, every day is an opportunity to live with purpose and to glorify God.